Imagine if I told you that next week or next month or next year, Americans would be landing on the moon. How huge would that be? So it's kind of hard to believe that after Apollo 11, the idea of going to the moon became almost old hat. After Apollo 12 returned to the moon in November 1969, some people were actually feeling that these trips were getting routine. Then the world was reminded starkly they were anything but.
An analogy I used, the first time you flew across the Atlantic, it created a lot of news, but now we got hundreds of flights across the Atlantic and nobody cares. But we never lost our enthusiasm or our excitement because we knew what we were doing was very, very important scientifically.
And of course, plenty of astronauts still wanted their shot to walk on the moon. One was Alan Shepard, the first American in space who'd not been in space since that flight in 1961.
Alan Shepard had been grounded for, I don't know, about 9 years. Wiser heads in management said, wait a second, Shepard doesn't have that much training so far. We need to give him more training. Would you mind taking 13? We're going to give Shepard 14. And I said 13 would be fine.
More than fine, it would give Lovell, who had gone into space 3 times and even orbited the moon, his chance to walk on its surface that much sooner. Apollo 13 launched at 13:13 military time. It was set to enter lunar orbit on the 13th of April. But the crew, Lovell, Fred Haise, and Jack Swigert, were having nothing but good luck. 56 hours into the flight, the crew finished a broadcast showing how comfortably they lived and worked in weightlessness.
This is the crew of Apollo 13. Wish everybody there a nice evening.
9 minutes later, oxygen tank number 2 blew up, causing the number 1 tank to also fail.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Houston, we've had a problem. Words that would be forever linked to Commander Jim Lovell.
When the explosion occurred, I thought to myself, why me? Why not? And for a little while, I couldn't believe what was happening. And then all of a sudden I said, well, it is me, and it is now. So what's next?
The command module's normal supply of electricity, light, and water all lost. There was no heat source. They were 200,000 miles from Earth and going in the wrong direction. Did you actually ever think I might die?
Well, we thought our chances were about 10%.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah. When we realized after we saw the oxygen escaping that things could be, really bad.
We are venting something out into space.
As the world watched, ground control in Houston faced a formidable task. Think of a way for the crew to fix their spaceship, test it, then write up step-by-step procedures for the astronauts to follow just to get home.
We immediately went to the simulators to try to do in the simulators what they had to do in the damaged Apollo 13 spacecraft to get them home.
We're trying to come up with some good ideas here for you.
One was to shut down the command module to conserve its remaining energy and use the lunar module, a craft usually reserved for shuttling 2 members of the crew to and from the moon, as a sort of lifeboat.
We knew we had the lunar module, and it had, power in the batteries, and it had oxygen.
But not enough.
No, but if we could use it to get us back home again, we were going to. But if not, we were going to transmit as long as we could so that the people would have some idea of what to do to correct for future flights.
I want to say you guys are doing real good work. So are you guys, Jack.
You all sounded so calm, but you in particular, Captain, sounded so at ease. Now, if that were me, I'd be Barney Fife. I'm 200,000 miles from home. My spaceship blew up, and I'm not feeling optimistic. But what went through your mind?
Well, a lot of people said, you didn't understand the situation.
Another crisis. Carbon dioxide levels were getting dangerously high. Ground control fixed that by instructing the crew to build a makeshift rig they called the mailbox to purge the deadly gas from the craft and keep oxygen levels safe. This bought some time for the crew, who were barely eating and running low on water. You think you lost 14 pounds?
I didn't realize I'd lost 14 pounds. And I guess I was all charged up.
They were sick, freezing, and tired, but safe for now. Mission Control's next task was to get the broken down craft out of a lunar landing course and back on a free return to Earth trajectory. Engineers in Houston figured the crew could do this by executing two separate burns, or accelerations, made from the limping command module. Powering that up after its long, cold sleep was one of Mission Control's greatest achievements. Flight controllers generated the necessary procedures to do this in 3 days. Something like that would normally take 3 months.
We got smarter and smarter and smarter. Then it became, let's don't make a mistake.
People across the globe hoped for a miracle. They got one. The crew of Apollo 13 splashed down safely in the South Pacific Ocean on April 17th.
It was a failure in its initial mission, but in reality, it was a triumph in the ability of people to overcome adversity.
That triumph likely gave Alan Shepard, the man Lovell switched flights with, his opportunity to walk on the moon 9 months later. Shepard famously made the moon his low-gravity driving range, launching 2 golf balls with a 6-iron he had smuggled aboard Apollo 14.
I'm going to try a little sand trap shot here.
I, fantasized about landing on the moon, what I was going to do, how I was going to act on the moon, the lunar surface.
But Lovell would never get the chance to go back.
So close, and yet so far.
Apollo 15 launched July 26, 1971, with David Scott, James Irwin, and Alfred Worden aboard. Apollo 16 launched April 16, 1972, carrying John Young, T. Kenneth Mattingly, and Charles Duke. They were the first missions to use the lunar roving vehicle, but the Apollo missions were winding down. Would man ever return to the moon? The astronauts of Apollo 17 certainly hope so. Their amazing and what would turn out to be final mission after the break.